The news reverberated across the globe. Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States, had been found guilty. The charges were manifold, the implications staggering. Yet, amidst the shock and uncertainty, one thing remained strikingly clear. Trump's European allies stood by him. This unwavering support, a constant throughout his tumultuous presidency, now faced its most significant test. From the heart of Europe to the edges of the continent, leaders voiced their solidarity, their words a testament to the complex relationship forged during Trump's tenure. This was not merely a political alliance, but a bond built on shared ideology, mutual interests, and a deep-seated belief in Trump's brand of leadership. It was a bond that transcended legal proceedings, a testament to the enduring power of Trumpism on the world stage. The world watched, captivated and bewildered, as the leader of the free world faced the weight of the justice system. The trial had been a spectacle, a media frenzy that had consumed the nation and gripped the globe. Yet, for Trump's European allies, the verdict changed nothing. Their loyalty remained steadfast, their resolve unshaken. This unwavering support, a beacon in the storm of controversy, raised profound questions about the future of global politics. It spoke to a changing world order, one where traditional alliances were being redrawn and new power dynamics were emerging. And at the heart of this seismic shift stood Donald J. Trump, a figure both polarizing and magnetic, who had reshaped the geopolitical landscape in his image. To understand this unwavering support, one must delve into the Trump years, a period marked by both turbulence and transformation in transatlantic relations. Trump's arrival in the White House sent shockwaves through Europe. His unorthodox style, his disdain for diplomatic norms, and his America First rhetoric challenged the very foundations of the post-war order. Yet amidst the initial apprehension, a different narrative began to emerge. Trump's tough stance on immigration, his skepticism of multilateralism, and his assertive foreign policy resonated with a growing segment of European society. Leaders like Viktor Orban in Hungary and Matteo Salvini in Italy saw in Trump a kindred spirit, a leader who dared to challenge the liberal consensus. Trump's economic policies, particularly his focus on bilateral trade deals and his pressure on NATO allies to increase defense spending, also found favor among certain European circles. His withdrawal from the Trans-Pacific Partnership was seen by some as a necessary corrective to globalization's excesses, while his imposition of tariffs on Chinese goods was applauded by those seeking to protect European industries. This convergence of interests, coupled with Trump's personal charisma and his ability to connect with the anxieties of ordinary people, forged a bond that went beyond traditional diplomatic channels. It was a bond built on shared values, mutual respect, and a common vision for the future of the West. Across the continent, leaders from both ends of the political spectrum voiced their support for Trump, citing a range of reasons that spoke to the complexity of the transatlantic relationship. In the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, a self-proclaimed admirer of Trump's deal-making prowess, praised his commitment to strengthening the special relationship between their two countries. In France, Marine Le Pen, leader of the far-right National Rally, hailed Trump as a defender of Western civilization, echoing his rhetoric on immigration and national sovereignty. Even in Germany, where Chancellor Angela Merkel had a famously frosty relationship with Trump, there were voices of support from within her own party, the Christian Democratic Union. This diverse coalition of backers highlighted the breadth and depth of Trump's appeal in Europe. From populist firebrands to establishment conservatives, from economic nationalists to social conservatives, Trump's message resonated with a wide swath of the European electorate, cutting across traditional political divides. This support was not without its critics, of course. Many Europeans, particularly on the left, viewed Trump with a mixture of horror and disdain, seeing him as a threat to democracy, human rights, and the liberal world order. Yet even among his detractors, there was a grudging acknowledgement of his influence and his ability to disrupt the status quo. Central to understanding this enduring support is the legacy of Trump's foreign policy, a blend of realism and unilateralism that, while often controversial, resonated with certain European priorities. Trump's decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal, a move widely criticized by European allies at the time, was later seen by some as having brought Iran back to the negotiating table. Similarly, his tough stance on Russia, including his decision to withdraw from the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, was seen by some as a necessary counterbalance to Moscow's assertiveness in Eastern Europe. While these policies may have ruffled feathers in some quarters, they also demonstrated Trump's willingness to take decisive action, a quality admired by many European leaders. Beyond specific policy decisions, Trump's broader approach to foreign policy, with its emphasis on national sovereignty and its skepticism of multilateral institutions, found favor among those who felt that the post-war order no longer served their interests. This was particularly true in Eastern Europe, where countries like Poland and Hungary chafed under what they saw as the dictates of Brussels and Berlin. Trump's willingness to engage with leaders like Orban and Poland's Jarosław Kaczynski, often ostracized by their Western European counterparts, further cemented his image as a leader who understood their concerns and was willing to challenge the status quo. This willingness to break with diplomatic protocol and engage with leaders across the political spectrum earned him both praise and condemnation, but it also underscored his commitment to putting America's interests first. Further solidifying these ties was the complex dance of trade, where Trump's aggressive tactics, though often perceived as disruptive, ultimately yielded tangible results for some European nations. His imposition of tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, a move met with widespread condemnation, ultimately led to negotiations that resulted in quota agreements with the European Union, providing some relief to European producers. Moreover, Trump's renegotiation of the North American Free Trade Agreement, resulting in the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, was seen by some as a model for future trade deals, prioritizing American interests while also addressing concerns of its trading partners. While critics argued that Trump's protectionist policies ultimately harmed the global economy, his supporters pointed to the concessions he extracted from trading partners as evidence of his effectiveness. This transactional approach to trade, while unorthodox, appealed to certain European leaders who had long felt that the United States had taken their economic partnership for granted. Trump's willingness to play hardball, to use tariffs and other leverage to extract concessions, resonated with those who felt that Europe needed to be tougher in defending its own economic interests. In this sense, Trump's presidency marked a turning point in transatlantic trade relations. His willingness to challenge the status quo, to upend long-standing agreements, and to prioritize American interests forced European leaders to reevaluate their own positions and to adopt a more assertive stance in trade negotiations. Section 6. Beyond the headlines, a deeper look at European support. To fully grasp the depth of European support for Trump, one must look beyond the headlines and delve into the underlying currents shaping public opinion across the continent. Trump's appeal transcended traditional political divides, resonating with a segment of the population that felt increasingly alienated from the political mainstream. His message of economic nationalism, his promise to drain the swamp of corruption, and his tough stance on immigration resonated with those who felt left behind by globalization and cultural change. This was particularly true in countries like France, Germany, and the Netherlands, where the rise of populist parties had upended the political landscape. Trump's supporters saw in him a leader who spoke their language, who understood their anxieties, and who was willing to challenge the status quo. They admired his bluntness, his willingness to break with diplomatic protocol, and his unapologetic defense of American interests. To them, he represented a break from the perceived elitism and hypocrisy of the political establishment. This groundswell of support for Trump, often overlooked by the mainstream media, reflected a deeper malaise within Western democracies. It spoke to a growing sense of disconnect between the governed and the governing, a feeling that the political system was rigged against ordinary people. Section 7. The enduring appeal of Trumpism. Moreover, Trump's appeal extended beyond his personal charisma and his ability to tap into popular discontent. It also reflected a broader shift in the global political landscape, a move away from the liberal internationalist order that had defined the post-war era. Trump's skepticism of multilateral institutions, his emphasis on national sovereignty, and his willingness to use military force resonated with those who believed that the United States had become overextended and overcommitted on the world stage. They argued that the time had come for America to focus on its own interests, to shed its role as the world's policeman, and to pursue a more pragmatic foreign policy. This America First approach, while often criticized as isolationist, appealed to those who felt that the United States had borne too much of the burden for global security and prosperity. They pointed to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the financial crisis of 2008, and the perceived rise of China as evidence that the liberal internationalist order was no longer serving American interests. Trump's election, in this sense, was seen as a repudiation of the status quo, a sign that the American people were no longer willing to support a foreign policy that they believed had left them less safe and less prosperous. Section 8. A Fractured World. Trump's Impact on Global Alliances. The conviction of Donald Trump sent shockwaves through the international system, exposing the fault lines in a global order already strained by geopolitical competition and ideological divides. His unwavering support from certain European leaders underscored the complex web of alliances and interests that shaped the transatlantic relationship. Trump's presidency, for all its turbulence, had forced a reckoning within Europe, compelling leaders to confront the changing dynamics of global power and to reassess their own strategic priorities. His America First approach, while often disruptive, had also served as a wake-up call, prompting a long-overdue conversation about burden sharing within NATO and the future of transatlantic cooperation. The conviction, however, threatened to further complicate these dynamics. It injected a new element of uncertainty into an already volatile geopolitical landscape, raising questions about the durability of traditional alliances and the future of American leadership on the world stage. The response from European leaders, a mix of condemnation and cautious pragmatism, reflected the delicate balancing act they faced. They recognized the need to uphold the rule of law and to defend democratic norms, while also seeking to preserve vital security and economic ties with the United States. Section 9. The future of Trump's global influence. As the dust settled on the conviction, one thing remained clear. Donald Trump's influence on global politics was far from over. His brand of populist nationalism, his transactional approach to foreign policy, and his willingness to challenge the liberal international order had left an indelible mark on the world stage. The conviction itself, while a significant moment in American history, was unlikely to diminish his appeal among his core supporters, both at home and abroad. If anything, it was likely to further fuel their sense of grievance and their belief that the system was rigged against them. The future of transatlantic relations, in the wake of the conviction, remained uncertain. Much would depend on the response of the Biden administration and its ability to repair the damage done to America's global standing. However, it was clear that the relationship had been fundamentally altered, marked by a newfound sense of distrust and a divergence of views on key issues. The conviction of Donald Trump, a seismic event in American political history, served as a stark reminder of the fragility of democratic institutions and the enduring power of populist movements. It also underscored the complex and evolving nature of global alliances in an era of shifting power dynamics and ideological polarization.